When it comes to hot pepper, the pests and diseases are divided into 4 groups: insects, fungi, bacteria, and viruses. And in each of these groups, treatment for your hot pepper varies. We will look at each in details on this channel. Remember to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. The pepper weevil, scientifically known as Anthracis eugeni. It is one of the most destructive insect pests on peppers. This insect will only lay eggs and feed on plants in the Solanese family, including with species such as black and silver leaf nightshades and horse nettle. All commercial pepper varieties currently available are susceptible to pepper weevil damage. The body of the adult pepper weevil is about an 1/8 inch long, arched, dark in color with a brassy luster, and has a long snout break. Its larvae are white to gray in color with yellowish brown heads and are 1/4 inch long. When fully grown, pupa resemble adults with no wings and are initially white, becoming yellowish with brown eyes. This is how pepper weevil damages your pepper. Females lay eggs in small fruit and flowers, most often in the upper canopy. The process of egg laying punctures the fruit and flower, causing oviposition wart on fruit. The larvae that hatches from the eggs feed on the flower buds and on internal fruit tissue. Adult weevils make exit holes in the walls of the fruit when they emerge. Adult weevils also feed on fruit and flower buds. Feeding causes flowers and young fruit to abort and prematurely drop. How will you know you have pepper weevil infestation? When you see several dropped fruit as the base of a plant, if fruit continues to develop, it will be deformed. On large fruit, larvae feed on the inner core and fruit walls. The infested fruit may show no external symptoms other than the puncture wounds made during egg laying. The calyx and stems of infested fruit may turn yellow, and the inner core can become brown and moldy. If no flowers or fruit are present, adults can feed on stems and leaves, but this rarely causes major damage to the plant. Let's look at the pepper weevil life cycle. Pepper weevils are tropical insects, and they can survive winters on crab and weed host plants. Pepper weevils do not have a diapause phase, a hibernation-like state where they stop developing during periods of adverse conditions. During periods of fallow, pepper weevils survive on weed species such as black nightshade and silver leaf nightshade. When it comes to the areas where the winters are too cold, the insects can be brought in on pepper fruit or transplants grown in locations where weevils are present. Flying adults are the primary means for the spread of pepper weevils from field to field once they have been introduced to an area. But how can you get rid of pepper weevils or manage them if they are already in your garden? Pepper weevils are difficult to manage once an infestation is established and larvae are present inside the fruit. You can do 1, 2, or more of these things below. 1. A combination of pest exclusion scouting, sanitation, and insecticide applications to minimize yield losses. 2. In areas where pepper weevils can overwinter, field sanitation, weed management, and crop rotation can help. Then 3. If possible, avoid planting peppers within 1.5 miles of other solanaceous crops, such as eggplant. 4. In areas where pepper weevils do not usually overwinter, avoid planting near pepper packing or processing facilities. Inspect transplants for evidence of weevil infestation and avoid transplants produced in areas where weevils are commonly present. 5. During the season, remove and destroy any fallen fruit, control nightshade, and other solanaceous weeds in and around the planting. Then 6. After final harvest, promptly remove fruit from the field and destroy cull piles. Shred and disc pepper residue in the field as soon as possible. Those are some of the ways you can counteract this weevil if it's in your plantation. But also we in the previous interviews we did with some of our pepper farmers here in Uganda, they spoke more about how you can fight this. If you could find those videos back, they're in Uganda with subtitles written in English down on the videos. Let's continue. Let's talk about scouting. We've mentioned scouting in some of our previous videos, and I've also mentioned scouting in this current video. But when it comes to scouting, there are some few things that you also need to note when it comes to fighting pepper weevil. 1. Scouting for pepper weevil should begin prior to flowering. Scouting involves looking for adult weevils through visual examination of plants or the use of pheromone-baited yellow sticky traps. Traps should be placed around the perimeter of the field at canopy height. Traps should be checked twice a week, more often if pepper weevils are known to be present in the area. The yellow sticky traps will capture other insects, including other weevil species, so it is important the person checking the traps knows how to correctly identify pepper weevils. The second thing to note is treatments with the insecticides registered for management for pepper weevil on pepper should start when the first weevil has been captured. Don't wait. The third thing, scouting can also be done by visual inspection of the terminal buds of the pepper plants, looking for adult weevils. Scouting should be done in the morning when weevils are present in higher numbers. Don't wait for the sun to come out. Number 4, plants should be evaluated twice a week as damaged birds abort and fall off the plants after a few days. 5. When using insecticides, insecticides are only effective against the adult stage of the weevil because immature stages of the weevil are protected within the buds of fruit. 6. Rotate the use of insecticides with different modes of action to delay the development of the insecticide resistance in the pepper weevil population. Then 7th thing you can also do or observe, many of the recommended insecticides are toxic to bees, so be careful and prevent the direct spraying of blooming crops where bees are foraging, because this can cause you to have little to less produces. So that has been the pepper weevil. Another insect that attacks hot pepper is aphids. There are thousands of different aphid species around the world, and you will find them in a variety of climates. This is how aphids operate. These pests attach themselves to the leaves of your pepper plants and suck the sap right out. Because they are drinking all the sugary juices from the leaves, aphids end up excreting a sticky substance called honeydew. Ants feed on the honeydew substance that aphids produce, making for a vicious gardening cycle. Most aphids are born pregnant, so they multiply incredibly quickly. If you suspect you have aphids on your pepper plants, you will need to act fast. However, when dense aphids population are present, they can reduce pepper yields and cause rapid plant health decline. The presence of large aphid populations on peppers can be determined by simply examining the plants for the aphids. Some indicators of an infestation include shiny plants and the subsequent growth of sooty mold due to the presence of honeydew, wilting, leaf curling, and increased ant activity. In addition to feeding injury, aphids are capable of vectoring plant viruses that further reduce plant health. Farmers who prefer organic farming methods don't use insecticides to take out these small pests. Doing that will eliminate insects that are on your side in the insect battle. Predator insects like ladybugs that eat nuisance bugs. Instead, think natural aphid control. Use one or more of the natural methods to rid a plant of aphids. Some farmers attest that they've used water to get rid of aphids. Some have used water mixed with dish soap to get rid of aphids. You could also use neem oil. These two can do the job well, and there are so many other organic ways you can get rid of aphids. Here in Uganda, our farmers, especially those growing for exports, have been given insect traps. These are yellow sticky traps that you can put in your gardens, and they can trap a lot of insects, including these pesky aphids. There you have it, all about aphids and how you can control them. Remember to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. Pepper hornworms. These are the larvae of a moth with a 4-inch wingspan. They hide under the leaves during the day and come out to eat at night. Hornworm caterpillars are the larvae of the hummingbird moth. Some call it the phoenix moth, which gets its name from its first wing spread. If you spy this whirring moth hanging in the air, sipping nectar from the flowers of your plants in your garden, then you will know that you need to keep an eye out for hornworm caterpillars. There are a couple of types of hornworm caterpillars. The tomato hornworm has a black horn. The tobacco hornworm has a red horn. They each feed on tomatoes and its plant relatives, including eggplants, peppers, and potatoes. What do hornworms do? Hornworms lay eggs on host plants. They look first for tomatoes, but will also attack eggplants, peppers, and potatoes. When eggs hatch, the hornworms start eating. Full-grown hornworm caterpillars can devour an entire tomato plant in a day or two. But how do I know that I have hornworms in my garden? Hornworms can be hard to see initially because their color blends in well with green plant foliage. They tend to hide during the day beneath leaves and emerge to feed at dusk. So that tends to be the easiest time to spot them. You'll recognize them by their giant size, which is up to 4 inches long, and their characteristic horn on their rear end. One of the best clues that a hornworm is present are the barrel-shaped droppings they leave scattered on leaves. If you see these, you are likely to find hornworms nearby. Be sure to look especially carefully in the area right above the droppings. When it comes to fighting hornworms, you can prevent them or you can get rid of them in case they are already in your garden. Let's start with how you can prevent hornworms. 1. Keep weeds pulled. Adult hummingbird moth lay eggs on a variety of weeds in the tomato family, including horsnito, Jimson weed, and nightshade. Keep these plants away from your garden. In fact, they host so many pepper plant pests that it's a good idea to pull them anywhere they appear in your yard. 2. Another way you can prevent hornworms is to attract beneficial insects. Many insect predators attack pepper hornworm. Ladybugs and green lacewings feast on eggs and young worms. One type of small wasp also attacks hornworms, laying its eggs under the pest's skin. When the larvae hatch, they feed on the hornworm. Third thing you can do is to attract beneficiaries. Limit pesticide use. Grow a large variety of flowering plants, especially sweet alyssum. Also consider allowing a few vegetable and herb plants such as lettuce, broccoli, and parsley to flower. Beneficial insects love the nectar those blossoms provide. Another thing you can do is hang bird houses. Insect-eating birds such as house wrens and chickadees are happy to live near people. These curious birds devour many insects, including hornworms. Now, how about if you already have hornworms? That we've seen how you can prevent hornworms, but how about if they are already in your garden? This is how you can get rid of hornworms. 1. Handpick the worms. Because they are usually not present in large numbers, you can often control hornworm by simply handpicking them off the plant and destroying them. Don't fear the horn, it's harmless. Drop them into soapy water or feed them to the chickens if you have chickens. Another thing you can do is you can spray plants with a caterpillar spray containing a naturally occurring organic biopesticide that acts only on certain species of caterpillars and doesn't harm beneficial insects. Once treated, healthy plants should recover by producing new foliage. Another thing you can do is leave parasitized worms alone. If you see a hornworm with white oval things protruding from the body, leave it in the garden. It has been parasitized by a broken-kneed wasp. And the white objects are cocoons. More wasps will emerge from the cocoons to attack other hornworms. These are some of the ways that you can fight hornworms if they are already in your garden. Hornworms can make for some cringeworthy garden pests. However, with a few preventive measures and by taking quick action when they do appear, you can help minimize the damage. Armyworms. Armyworms are very common serious pepper plant pests. They come in different types. The types include yellow striped armyworm. This primarily feeds on foliage but can also attack fruit, creating holes. Then we have the fall armyworm, botanically known as Frugipada. Fall armyworms can cause severe damage to fruit, leading to premature drop and fruit rot. Despite the name, fall armyworm do not only come during the fall, but the fall armyworm with the closely related beet armyworms, which we're going to look at a little later in this video, they breed all year round and can lay eggs in spring, summer, fall, and winter. Their life cycle takes up to 90 days in the winter and as few as 30 days in the summer. The adult brown, gray, and cream moths lay their eggs in clusters on leaves of your pepper plants. These eggs hatch after just a few days, and the larvae emerge and mature into what we call the armyworm. It's these larvae that do all the damage. Fall armyworms are brown with gray stripes, while the beet armyworms, which we will look at later, are green striped with pale and dark green coloring. The fall armyworm will devour the leaves, typically starting from the edges and working their way in. Not only does this harm the plant and leave it open to diseases, but it reduces the plant's vigor and may impact the size of your harvest. In your effort to get rid of the fall armyworms, you can use beneficial insects like parasitoid and the tachynidae wasps, as well as minute pirate bugs. These can help keep populations under control. Now let's also look at the beet armyworm, which is botanically known as Spodoptera exigua. This is a common pest that feeds on both leaves and fruit, potentially causing defoliation and fruit loss. Adult beet armyworms are small, mottled gray or dusky-winged moths. Females lay eggs in clusters on leaves. The clusters are covered with fluffy, dirty, white scales. Eggs hatch in a few days, and tiny caterpillars begin feeding while still clustered together on the plant. In 2 to 3 weeks, beet armyworm larvae are full grown and about 1 inch long. The body is smooth with few hairs and predominantly green with mottled dark lines along the back. Just above the spiracle, lengthwise along the body, is a dark green to black line edged on each side with white. There is usually a small dark spot above the spiracle on the second pair of the true legs. Besides pepper, beet armyworms feed on sugar beet, alfalfa, beans, tomatoes, and a variety of weeds such as lampsquatters, redroot pigweed, and nettle-leaf goosefoot. For farmers who have winter and spring, during winter and spring, the population is concentrated on weeds. But in late spring, moths begin laying eggs in the pepper field when the plants are young. Newly hatched larvae feed together near the egg cluster and gradually disperse as they grow. They skeletonize leaves and may spin a loose webbing over the feeding site. Older larvae chew irregular holes in leaves and feed on young fruit. Beet armyworm is a serious pest of pepper. It feeds on both leaves and fruit. As the fruit forms, beet armyworm bores into the calyx end. Both defoliation and fruit loss result from the feeding. Unlike many caterpillar pests, the feeding is quite messy, with webbing and excrement present. How to manage this pest from your garden? Regular monitoring of the leaves and fruit is important in detecting an infestation of beet armyworms. Treatments may be necessary if fruit damage is occurring. You can also use biological control. Many natural enemies attack beet armyworms. Among the most common parasites are the wasps, Hyposota exiguae and Chelonas insularis, and the Tachinid fly Lespecia archipivora. Organically acceptable methods include biological control and sprays. When it comes to what to spray, look at what is acceptable in the area where you're staying. Different sprays are acceptable and not acceptable in different parts of the area and availability. So you may need to visit your local vendor for pesticides. But choose a pesticide that won't kill the beneficial insects in your garden. Before you decide to treat, do monitoring and look for the cream-colored egg mass or later for the feeding on the seedlings and leaves to determine if beet armyworms are present. Also, sample fruit when it first appears. A 5-minute timed search is useful in determining the need for treatment. If one or more larvae or egg masses are found in 5 minutes, treatments may be justified. Ground applications provide maximum effectiveness of the pesticide. Treat if beet armyworms are on the fruit. Other ways to identify armyworm damage. Look at your leaf. Armyworm larvae cause extensive defoliation, leaving plants with a ragged torn appearance. Then you can also examine the fruit. Armyworms can bore into the calyx end of peppers, leading to fruit loss. They can also create holes on the surface of the fruit. Other signs include looking for the webbing, excrement, and skeletonized leaves, which are indicative of armyworm feeding. These identifications of armyworms apply to all types of armyworms. Some of the general methods you can use to control armyworms include natural control, including beneficial insects. Attract ladybugs and lacewings, which feed on armyworm eggs. Then you can clean your garden. Regularly remove fallen leaves, fruits, and dead plant material, as these can harbor armyworms. The third natural control that you can practice is weed control. Remove weeds, as they can attract armyworm egg-laying females and provide food source for larvae. The fourth natural control is neem oil. Use neem oil spray to control larvae. The fifth natural control is Bacillus thuringiensis, known as BT. Spray plants with BT, a bacterial control that kills caterpillars. Then you can also employ chemical control, like insecticides. Use insecticides containing active ingredients like bifenthrin, cyflothrin, cypermethrin, lambda-cyhalothrin, permethrin, or spinosad. These names, I'll leave them up for you. The second chemical control is using foliar sprays. Apply foliar sprays with 5% cottonseed oil to control eggs and young larvae. Then the third chemical control is the use of pheromone traps. Use traps baited with synthetic sex pheromones to monitor adult populations. There are other ways that you can prevent armyworms, and these include 1. Monitor plants regularly. Inspect plants frequently, especially the undersides of leaves, for signs of armyworm infestations. Plant variety selection. Choose pepper varieties that are known to be more resistant to armyworms. Crop rotation. Rotate crops to prevent the buildup of armyworm population in the soil. Now you know what to do. Go protect your plants against armyworms. Or if your garden is already under attack, now you know what you need to do to treat your garden and get rid of armyworms. Corn borers. European corn borers, you can call them ECB, is a small nocturnal brown moth. Problem is, they may choose pepper plants as hosts for egg laying and larval development, since larvae feed and develop inside the pepper fruit. which is the marketable portion of your plants. It's important to look for them. The evasive European corn borer, botanical name is Ostrina nubialis, is the most destructive, though not the most common pepper pest. It's a more frequent problem in sweet types, but spicy peppers aren't safe either. Don't be fooled by the name. Just because it's called corn borer, it does not mean it only attacks corn. This pest attacks corn, peppers, tomatoes, wheat, beans, and pretty much any other herbaceous plant that is large enough for the 1-inch larvae to bore into. The adult moth lays eggs on the foliage, and the larvae that hatch start out by chewing on the leaves before burrowing into the stems and fruit. Not only is it nasty to open up a pepper and find a live worm inside, or at least evidence of one crawling about, but it leaves the fruit susceptible to rot and disease. When it comes to controlling this pest, Beauveria bassiana is effective against this pest, as is the beneficial bacteria Bacillus thuringiensis v. castake, BTK. Products containing BTK can help you control a number of different caterpillar and worm species. Corn earthworms. Depending on where you live, corn earthworms, botanically known as Helicobacter zeer, can be a problem all year long. In cooler areas, they only start to become an issue in May, just when you're probably putting your pepper plants into the ground. As with corn borers, this pest isn't content to stick to just corn plants, though if you live in an area where lots of corn is grown, you're much more likely to run into them. They eat all kinds of vegetables, including tomatoes, which has earned it the alternative name of tomato fruitworm. The brown and cream 2-inch wide adults lay their eggs on the leaves of plants. After the egg hatch, the brown striped larvae get to work. They tunnel into the side of pepper fruits and snack away. While you can often just cut away the damaged section, since they don't move much once they get into the fruit, the damage they cause can leave your peppers susceptible to rot and disease. If you give these a little stroke, not that you're in the habit of stroking pests, you will notice that their bodies feel rough thanks to their microspines. Why is this important? It helps you determine whether you're dealing with armyworms, which look extremely similar, or cornworms. If you don't want to stroke them, the good news is it doesn't really matter which one you're facing. Corn earworms can be treated in the same way as armyworms, which means you can use the same preventative methods as we shared when we were looking at armyworms. Cucumber beetles. If you see 1/4-inch long green and yellow striped or spotted beetles on your pepper plants, that's the cucumber beetle. Cucumber beetles can attack plants at any stage, but they are particularly damaging to young crops. The adult beetles chew on the leaves, resulting in jaggedy edges and short holes. While that's bad enough, they also spread diseases like mosaic virus and bacterial wilt. Adults lay their eggs in the soil. Once the eggs have hatched, the larvae feed on the roots before eventually crawling out of the soil to feed on the above ground parts. Studies have shown that intercropping with nasturtiums can help reduce damage to nearby plants by repelling the beetles. So put those tasty edible flowers in your pepper garden. Beneficial insects too can be used, like lacewings and assassin bugs. They help. Beneficial nematodes will kill the larvae in the soil. Cutworms is a generic name for the caterpillar stage of multiple species of moth. Cutworms get their name because they cut down young plants as they feed on stems. Seedlings are most susceptible to cutworm feeding. Physical removal is effective in many cases. Cutworms can cause serious damage to crops. How can you know that you're dealing with a cutworm? Most cutworm species look very similar. Caterpillars are smooth with very few hairs and are about 2 inches when fully grown. They typically curl into a tight C shape when disturbed. They can range in color from brown or tan to pink, green or gray, and black. Some cutworms are a uniform color while others are spotted or striped. Some larvae are dull and others appear glossy. The damage that cutworms can cause to your plants. Cutworms curl their bodies around the stem and feed on it. This feeding causes the plant to be cut off just above the soil surface. The number of cutworms found can vary a lot each year. When their numbers are high, there can be severe damages caused. Black, bronzed, and army cutworms can cause serious injuries, attacking and cutting new plants nightly. The variated cutworm can climb the stem of trees, shrubs, vines, and garden plants and eat the leaves, buds, and fruit. Species such as glassy cutworms remain in the soil and feed upon roots and underground parts of the plant. Cutworms feed in the evening or night and hide in the plant debris or soil during the day, and it is not uncommon to see damaged or clipped plants and no larvae. New plants or young plants have more chances of injury because their stems are smaller and more tender. Damage is most severe in the early season when plants are small and have tender tissue. Cutworms are active throughout the summer, but are rarely a problem after spring. Now, if you stay in a tropical country like I do, that means cutworms are active throughout the year because our weather is almost like summer every day, every time. Cutworms will attack your pepper, but you need to know that cutworms are general feeders that can attack a wide range of plants. Vegetables they feed on include asparagus, beans, cabbage, and other crucifers, carrots, celery, corn, lettuce, peas, peppers, potatoes, and tomatoes. A few species feed on tough grass. Now that you know all about cutworms, how can you manage cutworms in your garden? 1. Monitor your garden for cutworms. How do you do this? Check your plants in the morning when damage is fresh and easier to see. Watch for plants cut off near the ground or plants that are wilting. When cutworms chew on the stems but do not sever the plant. If you see droppings on the ground, it is a sign of cutworm feeding. Check your garden for cutworms in the late afternoon and evening when cutworms are more active. To confirm that cutworms are present, run your hand over the soil, rolling over soil clumps and other potential hiding places within 1 foot of the damage. If cutworms are present, they will curl up into a C when disturbed. For some species that hide in the soil like black cutworm, a noticeable hole may be present in the soil near damaged or cut plants. Control of cutworms is more effective when the larvae are small. For some crops, such as tomatoes, peppers, and celery, you may run into cutworms that climb stems and feed on leaves and fruit later in the growing season. Another thing you can do to manage cutworms in your garden is to change the garden environment. How do you do that? Remove plant residue to help reduce egg-laying sites. Remove weeds, which serve as an alternate host for young cutworm larvae. Till your garden before planting, which helps expose and kill larvae that have lived through the winter. Use compost instead of green manure, as manure may encourage egg-laying. Till your garden in the fall to destroy larvae or pupa in the soil. Maintain a 3 to 4 foot buffer of dry soil along the edge of the garden to make it unattractive to cutworm. Another thing you can do to control cutworm in your garden is to practice physical contours. Use barrier to keep cutworms out. How can you do this? 1. You can place aluminium foil or cardboard collars around transplants. This creates a barrier that stops cutworm larvae from feeding on plants. 2nd, you can place the collars around plants such that one end is pushed a few inches into the soil and the other end extends several inches above ground. This should prevent most species of cutworms from getting to your plants. The other one is you can use pesticides, though you need to know that pesticides are usually not necessary in a home garden. In the process of you monitoring for cutworms, did you know that there are some traps that can be used to also trap cutworms? Black cutworm adults can be trapped using a bucket trap and black cutworm lure. Check traps weekly if you use the traps. As you know, a lot cutworms and all the different kinds of worms that attack pepper, they have similar ways that they can be controlled, as we've been sharing from the start of this series of pepper insects. With cutworms, you often don't know that they are around until you walk outside one morning and find all your pepper seedlings cut off at ground level. Flea beetles. Flea beetles are insects in the Chrysomelidae family and are an extremely common garden pest. And while the telltale short hole that they chew in the foliage may just seem like a cosmetic problem, they also leave your plants exposed to disease. The larvae also feed on the roots of plants, leaving them stunted and sickly. Trap crops like radishes and mustard can draw the pest away from your peppers, since they generally prefer brassicas over nightshades. Beneficial nematodes are also a good option. And remember our old friend BTK. Flea beetles are common pests found on many vegetable crops, including radishes, broccoli, cabbages, turnips, eggplant, peppers, and tomatoes, potatoes, spinach, and melons. Flea beetles chew irregular holes in the leaves. Severe flea beetle damage can result in wilted or stunted plants. Flea beetles are best managed through a combination of culture and chemical control methods. How can you identify that you have a flea beetle? Most adult flea beetles are very small, about 1/16th, a 16th to an 18th inch long. An exception is the spinach flea beetle, which is a 1/4 inch long. Flea beetles can be black, bronze, bluish, or brown to metallic gray. Some species have stripes. All flea beetles have large back legs, which they use for jumping, especially when disturbed. When it comes to the damage caused, all types of flea beetles cause similar damage. Adult flea beetles cause the most damage by feeding on the leaves and stems. They create shallow pits and small, rounded, irregular holes, usually less than an 1/8 inch in the leaves. This type of damage is unique to flea beetles. Plants started from seeds are less tolerant of feeding damage compared to transplants, but both can be severely injured if flea beetle numbers are high. The larvae usually cause little to no damage to the plants, with the exception of potato flea beetle larvae. How can you manage beetles in a home garden? One is to monitor your garden for flea beetle. And this is how you can do this. Place yellow sticky traps in your garden to see if you have flea beetles. Second, check your plants for flea beetles and their damage. Third, prevent severe damage to your plants by treating seedlings when there are more than 5 flea beetles per plant. 4, protect your crops if 10 to 30% of leaves on seedlings and transplants have dropped off. Another thing you can do to manage is to practice culture controls, and this will include controlling weeds in and around the plant, remove old crops, debris, plant crops as late as possible so that they have a higher chance to fight the beetles. More things you can do is to control weeds in and around planting sites to limit food sources for flea beetles. Remove old crop debris so that beetles will not be able to get protection in the winter. Plant crops as late as possible. Plants grow faster in warmer temperatures and are more stable to resist damage from flea beetles. Use raw covers or other screening to keep beetles out when the seedlings are growing. Remove raw covers before the flowers come up so pollinating insects can reach the plants. Plant a highly favored crop such as radish as a trap crop before you plant your main crop. Adult flea beetles will be attracted to the tallest, earliest crops available. Once beetles are actively feeding on the trap crop, spray with a labeled pesticide. Like, I'll remind you again that a lot of these pests that we are looking at that attack pepper, most of them have similar methods that you can apply to get rid of them, as we have been seeing from the start of this series. Let's have a look at pepper maggots. Now, pepper maggots, botanically known as Zonosemata electa, love peppers so much that they were named after them. These 7 millimeter long insects are yellow and black striped, kind of like a bee. But instead of pollinating the flowers as bees do, they lay eggs in the developing fruits. As the larvae emerge, they mine through the peppers, causing them to rot and fall from the plant. The adult will hang out in trees, especially sugar maples and white pines, before laying their eggs. Since they only lay eggs once a year, floating rock covers are the best method of control. Depending on where you live, the flies start laying in mid-July. If you miss your window of opportunity, beneficial nematodes should be applied to the soil in early August. For some reasons, these insects tend to avoid thin-walled peppers like jalapenos or serranos, preferring thicker-walled types like sweet bell peppers and poblanos. Potato leaf hoppers. Potato leaf hoppers, known botanically as Emparska fabi, are a significant pest for commercial pepper growers. In the home garden, they are nuisance. These pale green, eighth of an inch long insects hop and scuttle across the leaves when disturbed. When left alone, they feed on the leaves and lay eggs on the stems of the plant. When the larvae emerge, they feed on the leaves, resulting in hopperburn, which is a yellowing of the leaf edges due to a toxin in their saliva. While they can be a serious problem of potatoes, beans, and alfalfa, they usually just cause cosmetic damage on peppers. If you introduce less wings and sprinkle diatomicous earth on the leaves, that should be enough to keep them under control. Plants that are weakened by drought stress are more likely to be harmed by these pests. Remove any damaged leaves and support your plants with proper irrigation. Spider mites. Red spider mites, botanically known as Tetranchicus uricea, are extremely common in the garden, but most of us don't notice them until we start to see symptoms on the leaves and stems of the plant. That's because you have to look really close to see these tiny spider relatives. Instead, you'll see the webbing that they weave, as well as yellow stippling on the foliage, falling or curling leaves, and leaf bronzing. In really bad cases, existing fruit and flowers will drop and the plant may become stunted and lack vigor. Typically, spraying your peppers with water regularly and pruning away severely infected branches should be enough to keep your plants in good shape. If you start to see extensive damage, mist your plants. Since spider mites thrive in hot and dry conditions, misting your plants can help drown the mites. Also, you can help by improving air circulation. Enhancing air circulation can significantly reduce the spread of mites. Another solution you can use is soapy water solution. This homemade remedy is effective against many pests, including spider mites. There you have it, how you can control and get rid of spider mites if they are in your garden. Another pest we're looking at today is thrips. Thrips belong to the insects in the family of Thysanoptera, and they are teeny tiny. You probably won't notice them on your plant, but what you will notice is the damage they leave behind. These insects feed on the leaves and stems using their tiny piercing mouthparts, and while that can cause discoloration, deformed growth, and plant stunting, they also spread deadly diseases like tomato spotted wilt virus. Some of the things that can help in controlling the population of the thrips is mulching. You don't have to use insecticides because once they bite into your pepper plant, they've already transmitted any disease they are carrying. So because we do not want thrips at all in our garden, we're going to use the preventive methods heavily. Use reflective mulches early on in the season to repel thrips. Put up yellow sticky traps, which are also useful for monitoring aphids, whiteflies, and tomato psyllids, and monitor the movement of thrips. There you have it, how you can prevent thrips from attacking your garden, since you now know the damage they can cause to your plants. Thank you for being a good audience out through this episode that we've had of pepper pests. Now, one thing to remind you over is when it comes to these pests, this year you will be dealing with one pest and another time another pest. It's like you get rid of this one only to be infected and attacked by another. It seems like you never get rid of them, but what you can do is to create a healthy, balanced environment in your garden, which will significantly reduce a number of pests that you will face. And when it comes to pepper, I always tell you, make sure your garden has no weed at all. Do not have weeds in your garden. Weeds are a breeding place for all kinds of pests and diseases. So while you have all the tools that we have mentioned, all the remedies that we have mentioned all through the video, it is also important to remember to plant native species that attract beneficial insects. Rotate your crops. Try to diversify your plantings and avoid pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides as much as you're able. Now, I would love to hear from you. Of all that we have mentioned, which of these pests have you been dealing with or have you dealt with? How did you deal with these pests in your garden? And did you try any of the methods mentioned above? Did they work out well for you? Let us know in the comment section below, and we'll be grateful to hear from you.